So this is a quick review of the construction of seventh chords and the various versions of resolutions. What you can see here now is the C major scale and the triads built over it. And if we put another note on top of each of them, we get the seventh chords, and you will also see the intervals of the chords indicated here. We have a major chord here in the first case, and also a major seventh between the C and the B. So that's what the MM stands for there. So now we have a minor chord seventh over this over the two chord, and you can see the indications in the different version and writings here with Roman numerals and natural numbers being the most important ones. The same is true for the third. The fourth again is like the first, major seventh chord. Now we have the odd one over the 5, which is a major minor chord, seventh chord, or we call it also the dominant seventh chord, because from the G to the F we have a minor seventh built over a major chord, which has this dominant feel to it, a strong tendency of resolution. We will talk about this in a little bit. And now again, the sixth chord is like this. The seventh chord again has two versions with half diminished, which means it's a diminished chord with a minor seventh on top, and it also often occurs as a fully diminished, which means we have a lowered seventh on top, and you see the expressive writing with that. Now let's look at the resolution of the seventh chord, starting with the major minor seventh chord. Most common resolution and most important resolution, because it is part of the 5-1 cadence. And let's start exactly with that. We have the 5-1 cadence written here, and you immediately notice that there is the necessity of an alternate doubling. But before we go there, let me explain the basic rules for any seventh resolution. The seventh comes down and the leading tone goes up. You see? From this chord here, the seventh goes down while the leading tone goes up. And then the rest of the chords, the rest of the tones resolve accordingly. With the 5-1 in root position, we have to make sure that we drop either the fifth from the 1 chord or the fifth of the 7 chord, because it otherwise would create a hidden fifth movement between the chords. As you can see here indicated, in the first case I dropped the fifth from the 1 chord because it would create a hidden fifth movement, and the same thing the second version of dropping the fifth from the 5 chord, a 5-7 chord in this case. So just make sure, just be aware if you encounter a root position movement from a 5-7 to a 1 in a root position, this is a special case. Otherwise, you can use all 5 notes in each of the chords if there is any inversion involved. So, the general rules for alternate doubling: if you use them, you double the root. If that doesn't work, you double the fifth. And if that is not nice voice leading, then you double the third. In the rarest of cases, you triple the root, but you always have to include the third. Otherwise you wouldn't have an indication of the quality of the chord and the chord itself gets lost. So here's another version. It's a 5/6/5 or 5/7 chord. Down here you can see how the leading tone goes up, which is now the bass note, and the 7th goes down. Again, in A major we have a 5/4/3, which is a 5/2, or 5/7/2, better to say. You see that the 7 is moved a little bit here. I'm sorry about that. But again, the leading tone goes up, and the 7th comes down, the bass resolves, and then the similar tone, if possible, keep the similar tone. And checking another inversion here, using an alternate doubling just for voice leading purposes. But the unchanging things are that the 7th comes down, the leading tone goes up, and I try to keep the similar tone. And the last inversion, a 5/4 or a 5/4/2, where the 7th is in the bass, and then it still goes down and the leading tone goes up. So pretty straightforward. We can move rather quickly through the diminished 7th chords now. The diminished 7th chords are constructed by building all notes stacked in minor thirds, and because of that there are only 3 possible diminished chords, and they can resolve to the 4 others. So we have three diminished chords resolving to 4 others, which makes 12. So from these 3 diminished chords we can resolve to any chord or scale degree to the keys available to us. But it's very important to note that the spelling of the chord determines the function. The root is the leading tone, and so the root goes up. And you can see the examples written out here. Also in the inversions, the root as the leading tone always indicates where the chord needs to go, and you decide which inversion you want to use for the chord it goes to. The secondary diminished 7th chord resolves like the first one, except it doesn't go to 1. It goes to the respective temporary tonicization. So a 5/7 would go, of 3 would go to the 3, and so forth. So you basically apply the rules as it were in the original key. You just assume the temporary tonic and resolve accordingly.